It's nice when the sports algorithms make sense. It makes life pretty easy when wagering on games. Let's talk about the playing both sides strategy for basketball. What the algorithm says to do, what it did today. I had no problem securing profit on the Mystic Sparks game. It was very easy as predicted. And actually, if you played all these games, every single one of them, you would have potential payouts, some of them a magnitude of your wager, like for example, the Chicago Sky at plus 330. What a ridiculous line. They actually won. That means you get $430 back, 330 plus your 100 if you wager 100 on the Sky. So putting 100 down on all the underdogs because three of them won. The Sparks, the Liberty, and the Sky all won. So that's 290 here. 385 does not win. Fever do not win. Sparks do win. Okay. So what happens is wagering 800, you do not win the Fever game. Instead, you have to have Atlanta, but you never get a chance to wager on them because they never have a positive line throughout the game. So if the rule goes like this, which is you take one team at a positive line, the best positive line, the highest number you can get, and then you wait in the game until the lead flips or it looks like this team is going to win. And then you take the other team when they are offered a positive line. Well, the reason why that doesn't work every game is if one team gets off to a lead and never looks back, like the Dream did, they were healthier than the Fever. That's what it said was going to happen here, actually. Margin wasn't too huge, but there was the injury on the Fever. So the Fever don't get there. The Dream win the whole way, and you can't ever make a bet on the Dream. So that means you don't actually wager 100 on this side of the game because you never get a chance to. Okay? Well, all the other games, you had ability, like in the Dallas game, you had ability of getting them at like plus 180, plus 125, really. I think at the end of the half, about is what they were. So let's call that 225 possibility on Dallas. You're able to get the aces at plus 110 at half, just barely, because they were a huge favorite to begin with. So let's talk about what the potential wins would have been. The Dream, you'd never get a chance to do anything with them. And the Mystics, you could have got in the first half at like plus 135 also. Okay. So what ends up happening here, though, is basically the wagers you do make, you just started. This is not what I did. I'm going to talk about the Washington game in a second, what I did in that specific game, because that's the game the algorithm said to focus on. It said it was the closest game. But if you had done it with every single one of them, this is what it would have looked like. You would have been able to place $700 or 7 wagers on these games. You would have lost with the aces, lost with the wings, lost with the Mystics, won with the Sparks, won with the Sky, won with the Liberty. Look at that. 36% ROI. You're like, what? How's that possible? I only hit 3 out of 7 and I made money because you had great lines and they were, I wouldn't have said take all of these underdogs, but just to show you how even operating the strategy on every single game today resulted in this, and you still made 36%. Now, I focused on one game. Let's see if I made 36%. So what I did is I did 4 wagers. I was paying attention to the Mystic Sparks game, and I was able to get the Mystics at plus 145 in the first half at some point. And then I got the Sparks. Sorry, I got the Mystics at 145 and at 180 were the 2 different times I got them when they were down in like the first half and then in the third quarter. I got the Sparks at plus 200 at one point because they were the underdog to begin with. And then at 180, was it? No, actually it was 165. 165. I got these 2 on the Sparks. So what happened? The Sparks won. So the 245 was nothing. The 280 return was nothing. The 300 was something, and the 265 was something. So these lose, those win. I made 41%. That's what I thought. So you did better focusing on one game because you're able to get nice lines. Like these teams, so you're rooting to get the highest line possible, but it knew this game was going to be close. The other one that was obvious, really, was the Aces Liberty, because when you dig into the Aces roster, you see they were missing one of their starters, and the Liberty are a healthier team, and they're also a good team and a 90% team. Vegas is just the best. So they had basically the second number 2 team in the league playing the number 1 team, and the number 1 team missing one starter. So this was obvious that the Liberty were going to do some damage in this game. They ended up crushing it. So you could have got them at plus 190 before the game, and then you had forever to get the Aces in the second half when they were plus everything the whole time. They were demolished in the third quarter. It was over. It was unbelievable. So algorithm points these things out, and it becomes very easy to start securing profit along the way. And then it doesn't matter who wins. You're still rooting for one of the teams to win because you have one of them at a better line combination. Like it was better for me to win on the Sparks. If it had been the other way around, right? The other way around where I had the I think it was 235 or 135, and then I had a 180, I believe it was. If the Mystics had won, I would have won 29%. So not quite as much. I got the better outcome because the Sparks won, because I had better lines on their team when they win. There was so many lead changes in this game. You had the opportunity to buy a positive line on both teams in a cycle, peaks and troughs of, I believe, 3 different times. Clearly, you were able to do so, and probably more, probably a 4th that I missed, because there was at least 3. It ended up going. The flow of the game was. The Mystics did get up early, and then they challenged to tie it in the third quarter. So it was Mystics, Sparks. Yeah, and it started with Sparks. So Sparks, Mystics, Sparks, Mystics, Sparks, Mystics, Sparks is how it went. So there was 3 different times, and I capitalized on 2 of them because the last changes happened in the fourth quarter. And that was getting too close to the end. So I was able to take advantage of 2 different swings and lead changes. It was obvious and easy. And you could have gotten the Sparks. The best line I saw for the Sparks at any point was about 240, 220 or 240. It never really got really, really high up there because they just never trailed significantly. They stayed strong in this game. So you couldn't get them anything about more than that. But you still could. I mean, they were a plus 130. It was just, it's so easy to play the game this way because as you're watching the game, you're just rooting for, to go back and forth, and you're already securing profit along the way. So you like I said, you're rooting for someone. Like I was rooting for the Sparks, but it didn't matter. I was making money either way. And that's what the playing both side strategy is all about. So you can see success exactly. Of all the games, that game had the most lead changes. This one started with an Aces lead that turned into a Liberty lead blowing away. This one started as a Wings lead slightly, and then Chicago pulled away. That was the big upset on here, with Chicago having their way with the Wings. The Wings still put up 90-something points. So if you took the points in the over, which it was pointing at, they did hit 96 still and lost. So that was the upset. Atlanta walks over Indiana with the injuries, and this game was a barn burner till the very end. There was like a fight at the end of this game. It was crazy. This Washington game. So I hope that explains the live betting. It's a good use of your time paying attention because the algorithm is just able to fish that out and say, hey, you're betting both sides? This is the game you want to bet both sides on. You're going to have a good time because there's going to be lead changes that affect the lines. And it says this one too, because of the injuries to the Aces. It says that the Liberty certainly are going to put up a fight in this game, and 230 is too much of a favorite I think they were on the road too. So lots of reasons to also play the both sides of this game where you also destroyed it. If you play both sides of just that game alone, right? You have 100 on the Aces. Let's say you get them at only plus 110 at halftime because you're playing it safe. Because you already had 100 on the Liberty. The Liberty was paying 190. I actually saw them for 250 right after the game started. I almost took it, but I was paying attention to the Washington game instead. So just call it the 190 then. If you just took that before the game, that's 290. It would only be 210 if you won with the aces. Well, the aces lose. You still make 45% on this game because you got 290 back on the win here. So, I mean, there's an argument to be made also that if you hadn't bet the aces and you really liked what the Liberty were doing, you don't even make the 100, but that's not the strategy. The strategy is to make this bet so that you guarantee it. And even if you don't win, that's fine. Like you're guaranteeing profits so that no matter what happens, you win. That's what you're playing off game flow. It does work. It takes time. You got to watch the lines, but mathematically, it's pretty basic. Find both teams in a positive line and bet them. Can't lose. So there you go. I hope your picks won today. Mine won today. Exactly what we said. We'll be back with more. I think football will also be a good sport for doing this because of the nature of the touchdown and the 7-point score and the change in direction of games. Seems like an awesome idea to also do this with NFL this year when you're watching NFL games. So that will be a discussion had for a later date. All right, good luck. I hope your picks won today. All your games be volatile.